couple of things I'm going to do the other way around. I'm going to first say a few things about my business. So we try to provide a business link between Europe and China. We are officially headquartered in Hong Kong, although really sort of the face of the company is in Barcelona, where it all started. Yes, I am still in Barcelona, in case you wonder. And we provide services that are very much focused on sourcing. Actually, S3 stands for Strategic Sourcing Solutions. So that's the origin of the company. That is still the main activity of the company. We help businesses to purchase, to manufacture in China. And we also are working now with a couple of, I think somebody should mute their microphone. Is that possible? Could everybody mute their microphones? Thank you. We help companies to buy and manufacture in China and also now a little bit Southeast Asia and India. Apart from that, we help companies to export, to develop markets in some emerging places. And we provide also some consultancy and training services. This is the group website if you want to have a look at that afterwards. But we also yesterday launched, and that's an important thing, we launched yesterday the landing page for our UK operation, because last year in the middle of the pandemic, we set up jointly with also here present Adrian Pryce, we set up a UK subsidiary. And the new landing page for that is S3UK.com. So you can also have a look at that if you'd like to do that. Apart from that, maybe as a bit of a, I wouldn't call it a fun fact, but in the consultancy and training, together with Adrian and myself, we teach at quite a couple of business schools and universities. This is directly from our website. Some of this is just a seminar a year or something like that, and others are full courses. So we end up a little bit like the Chinese artists in Cirque du Soleil with the plates and the sticks, trying to make sure nothing falls. We have a video agenda, as probably all of you know, but we try to split our time between business and academics now. Good. Exporting to China. What can we sell to these lovely ladies who have a lot of cash? As Eric already mentioned, China is going full speed and growing middle class. So these girls have a lot of cash to spend. At least they had a lot of cash before they went shopping, probably. For those of us who have teenage daughters or had teenage daughters growing up, you're probably familiar with that concept. I want to highlight a couple of interesting industries in China, if you'd like to export to China. Not all of them are, of course, in the consumer field, logically. In the first place, of course, the factory of the world needs a lot of raw materials, which is for European businesses not very relevant, because that's not what we're very good at. But for other parts of the world, like the Peru of Darío, for instance, selling raw materials to a country like China is a big business. And the ups and downs of China are obviously having a direct impact on economies around the world. No? Technology was mentioned in quite a bit of detail by Eric as well. And indeed, the situation is now remarkable in the sense that it used to be highly interesting to sell a lot of things to China, but with some risks in terms of intellectual property rights. On top of that, as Eric also clearly identified, there is an issue whereby there's a number of industries where China is becoming little by little the leader, no? And the flow is actually the other way around, whereby it's China who is exporting certain types of technology. So this is a bit of a battlefield, I should say, no? Agro-industry is also an interesting sector to look into, and that is not food, but how to make food, in the sense that how to optimize agriculture. That is particularly important for a country like China that has pretty much a fifth of the world's inhabitants, but only a tenth of the useful farmable land. If you remember that map that Eric showed with the split of 94% and 6% of our population, Well, in that area of the 6% is a lot of desert, a lot of mountains, and a lot of very useful land for farming. So in proportion, China needs a lot of imported food, and in order to avoid that, those huge amounts of imported food, the government is very interested in developing the agro-industry sector now. Anything related to the environment, of course, I think we've all seen plenty of images. And those of you that I saw that have been to China, probably you've had a couple of experiences in terms of the environment not being as you used to. It is not anymore as bad as it used to be. Actually, the top spots in the terrible ranking of most polluted cities in the world is not anymore in the hands of Chinese cities, but it's actually cities in India. But still, it is not up to the standards as we would like to see it, or we would expect it maybe in other parts of the world. So that's a huge industry as well. Then, of course, for those young ladies that we saw before, anything related to luxury tourism, that of course is now flat, but will pick up very soon. And education, there's so many Chinese students worldwide. I have them very often in class as well, and I know Adrian as well, so that's a very important industry as well. And finally, of course, for so many businesses, the main thing would be about food and beverage with guarantees. I add here with guarantees, because local food and beverage industry is not always working according to international standards, with quite a number of scandals, food safety issues. So imported food is a very interesting topic, but not always easy to enter, because quite some investment is necessary to create a brand. Otherwise, you'll have a hard time to be successful. No? Good. Then looking at the opposite type of business, which is a bit what we more do, sourcing in China. What could you source in China? Well, probably practically everything, as you would probably imagine, but even raw materials. And that is a bit surprising, because we saw that also in the previous slides, that raw materials is actually going mostly towards China, but China actually has its hands on a very important type of raw materials, which are rare earths, where they are the leaders, which are a bunch of minerals, specialized minerals. As you see, one of them, scandium, the total yearly production is only 10 tons. That's half a container. This thing, europium, which is actually the stuff that is used to make, among others, les gilets jaunes in France, the fluorescent material, these sort of things. And anyway, I don't want to go into much more detail, but China is very important in these things, controlling most of the mines. And these are all niche applications, very often used in technology. So the whole world is sort of freaking out, particularly America is really freaking out about its dependency on Chinese sources. What else? Consumer electronics, I guess we would all imagine that all of these things are assembled mainly in China. The awkward thing, though, is that they're all made by one company. The one company that was mentioned by Eric before, Foxconn, the world's largest contract manufacturer with more than 1 million employees, actually a Taiwanese company. And they have their main basis operation in China, where they have dedicated factories to make Apple products, PlayStations, GoPros and Kindles and other many items. No? Probably some of you have heard of a lot of upcoming brands in household goods. Haier is a huge Chinese company making kitchenware. You can buy Haier pretty much all over the world now. It's a matter of time before they become a dominant player versus some European brands. And I guess, although most of us, I would imagine, have an iPhone, Chinese phones nowadays have become really big players, becoming important brands. It's hard not to find people who have a Xiaomi or Oppo or a ZTE or just a Huawei, no? So all of this is quite relevant and becoming more and more relevant, no? And then finally, there's of course a huge list of miscellaneous. Those of us who live in Spain, probably those street bins, you've seen those on the street in lots of cities in Spain. While most of them are actually made in China as well, in case you wonder. And I guess by now you've seen that I like my slides nice and full. So there's a big gap here, and that gap is actually for the big box in which we bring all this stuff, while also the containers are made in China. And there's a huge lack of them now, as probably those of you who are related to international shipping are fully aware of. So are there alternative markets? India, Southeast Asia, are there really alternatives here? Or are we going to be dependent on China forever? It's a difficult question, but I have to say that from a sort of realistic perspective, there's a yes and no to this question. Probably, actually, China will remain quite dominant for many years to come, not only based on cost, which is still quite cost efficient for the time being, but there's a couple of other factors here. China has this largest market in the world, of course, and that allows for a critical mass. Okay, you have a lot of companies who have become very big simply by mainly addressing that domestic market. So that is an important factor for a lot of companies, and so the sheer size, the dimension is an important thing here. Secondly, China itself has managed to increase its productivity over the last 10 years dramatically. So indeed, the labor costs have gone up a lot in China over the last 10 years, sometimes 10% per year. But if at the same rate productivity goes up, then actually the problem is not so big. And the countries, particularly in Southeast Asia, have not been able to catch up so fast in productivity. And I'm referring particularly sort of to the lower cost players, like Vietnam, or Cambodia, or those players. And then finally, what is a very important factor that a lot of people oversee is that you may find cheaper labor in a place like Vietnam, but it will be hard to reproduce the clusters that China has. So you have a lot of places in China where you can have cities or regions with literally not tens, but hundreds or thousands of companies all focused on a certain industry. And that implies that if you are there, you're either going to find all your suppliers there or your customers or both. But not only that, you will also have in the region, you will also have in the region probably universities where every year hundreds or thousands of engineers graduate who are specialized in your industry. So if you move to Vietnam, you can obviously have access to cheaper labor, but you will not be able to reproduce that same type of cluster. So that probably links you a little bit to the Chinese operations. So it's a bit of a yes and no. India at a certain point has an opportunity to become a little bit an alternative to China, but for now it is not yet, I'm afraid. So will China still be the factory of the world for a while? Well, this graph says a lot. For the time being, China is definitely still the world's #1 manufacturer, way ahead of the rest. So most likely, probably for a while, yes, that would be the answer here.